Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. Today we're going to be looking at an AI governance policy. Now, all of the documents we review on this channel are public-facing documents that pertain to data protection. Now, if you are not familiar with artificial intelligence, I'm going to be doing a series on my channel that basically looks at the public-facing documents that are starting to appear on websites for organizations that are utilizing artificial intelligence. Now, from a privacy standpoint, one of the reasons why a lot of organizations are now drafting and uploading AI policies and AI statements to their consumers is because, with some respects, most organizations that utilize artificial intelligence, there is an overlap with data protection in that, in order to use a lot of these AI tools, organizations will have users and user profiles. And those user profiles will generally collect your name and email address at a minimum, okay? Now, a name and email address are personal data, and there are obligations that organizations have when they utilize artificial intelligence if it processes personal data. Now, processing is a very broad term, and it basically means an operation or set of operations on personal data. So inevitably, I would be intrigued. I have not yet come across any AI tool that does not, at a minimum, process a user profile for consumers that interact with the AI tools. Now, the second thought and third thought that I have about AI tools is it may be that consumers have the opportunity to upload certain personal data identifiers as an input to the AI tool. And then in addition, the AI tool could then produce an output that also constitutes personal data. For example, if you go to ChatGPT and you select, hey, I want to get all of the information about Martin Luther King, right? Okay, he's dead. I'm not going to use him as an example. But let's just say a public-facing figure like Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is still living. If you put her information into ChatGPT and you ask, hey, I want to get insight into Nancy Pelosi, it's likely going to extract personal information from the web, and then the output that you're going to receive might give you insight into, her political career, her birth date, maybe her spouse. That all constitutes personal data, and those are all considerations that an AI tool needs to take into consideration on how it can be processed and what steps it's taking in order to process that information. So the data protection laws don't just not apply because you're utilizing artificial intelligence. There's so many different considerations that companies need to have. And one of the most important is transparency, which is why we're going to see in the future that there's going to be a lot more AI policies and notices and statements belonging to organizations that are utilizing artificial intelligence. So, to ensure maximum effectiveness of AI operations within Mitr Phol Group, now if anybody knows how to pronounce this properly, please leave a comment below, while maintaining alignment with international ethical standards and compliance with relevant laws and regulations, we hereby establish the following AI governance policy. So here's the objective. This AI governance policy applies to all Mitr Phol personnel. So we already know there's going to be some personal data involved, right? Because they're talking exclusively to personnel within their organization. So anybody that utilizes AI within the organization across the departments and business groups, and that includes all of these groups of people. And I was going to mention employees, but I don't know what constitutes personnel for this organization. But at a minimum, we understand that there is going to be some processing of personal data for these groups: directors, executive, and employees, okay? They've also got here contractors, business partners, and other stakeholders. Now, the reason I've highlighted this is because I think it's really important for organizations to understand that when you process personal data, we're not just thinking about your customers, right? Customers are not the only individuals with personal data. There are lots of different groups that a company needs to take into consideration when processing personal information. Most organizations think of personal data as their customer's info, like the customer's name, the customer's business email address, the customer's business phone number. But if you have employees, they also constitute data subjects under the data protection laws. Same with all of the groups of individuals. So when you are building your privacy program, you need to look at every single group of individual that you might process personal data on. I'm not going to get too much into this concept, but I want to talk about something called a record of processing activity. A record of processing activity is going to be a really good tool to help organizations identify each data subject that they process the personal data of. Because at a minimum, this organization, Mitr Phol Sugar Corp, processes information not just on their customers, but on all of these groups. And there are privacy considerations associated with processing this personal information that may differ to the types of personal information processed on a customer, okay? So they've provided some definitions of artificial intelligence. I'm just going to scroll down. This is only 4 pages long. I want to see if they provided a date. Now, one thing that's very interesting is they've put copyright 2024, but they haven't put a specific date as to when this AI governance policy is effective. That would be definitely something that's very useful. Now, from my understanding and from my drafting that I do for my organization and my company, this is generally considered an internal document. It's not generally something that would be shared on your public facing website because we already see who the audience is, right? The audience is directors, executives, and employees. One thing some organizations don't really know about data protection is outside of those public facing documents that you generally see on the website, like a privacy notice and a cookie notice, there are different groups of individuals to whom, one, have an audience, and two, have documents that you generally wouldn't share with your customers because the audience here is clear, and that's why this scope has been placed here. So this policy encompasses all types of AI through all work processes of Mitr Phol group across the entire AI lifecycle. Now I'm going to skip past the definitions. Principles of practice. Governance and operational optimization. The company has the procedures to ensure that AI application achieves maximum efficiency and effectiveness through clear strategies, work plans, KPI governance, monitoring, etc. Now, what I really want to look at is this would be pertinent. AI lifecycle. The company has procedures to ensure comprehensive governance throughout the AI lifecycle. From design, now this is really important. I'm going to read the whole sentence and then I'm going to give you my thoughts. From design and development to deployment, using data under strict data governance process to maintain high quality and reliability. Now, the reason this is something that would be of note for a privacy counsel is because there is a term in data protection known as privacy by design. Now, privacy by design makes sure that any product that is being created by an organization generally has privacy at the forefront prior to the creation of any type of product, okay? Now, this talks about the AI lifecycle. They're talking about design. It may be, I don't know for a fact, but this organization may actually be creating its own AI tool. Outside of the obligations under artificial intelligence laws, there also has to be the review of who is the product for and is there going to be personal data in scope? Because that's also going to influence what the eventual product looks like, and also making sure that an organization is able to meet its obligations under the data protection laws, not just from an artificial intelligence standpoint. But the fact of the matter is we've already looked at the fact that this applies to these groups of data subjects. So this, in addition to this provision, lets me know that it's really important for an organization such as Mitr Phol to take into consideration what the Privacy Council said about the design for whatever AI tool is going to be utilized. And then in addition to the development. Now, what generally happens at organizations is they'll create a product and it will have phase one. Now, most companies are constantly updating and upgrading the products and services they provide to their consumers. Now, it could be that the consumer in this instance is the employee and is the stakeholder, right? Making sure that an organization is re-reviewing the ongoing development and deployment and any changes that happen through this life cycle should subsequently be reviewed by privacy because there are implications on how personal data is utilized when it pertains to products. There may be one set of obligations a company has when they're creating the product, and then during the deployment stage, there may be additional obligations. So keeping privacy aware during the design, development, and deployment of whatever is happening with an AI tool is going to be very crucial. So I really hope you enjoyed this simple review. You can see here again, this AI policy references privacy. The company must prioritize the protection of personal data of AI users. And again, we know who the users are because they've listed who the users are going to be here in the scope section: directors, executives, and employees of contractors, business partners, and other stakeholders. There's always an overlap between any artificial intelligence and data protection because at a minimum, we're going to have users of the tool. So I really hope you enjoyed this review. If you have any questions about my AI governance policy review for this organization, leave a comment below and I'll see you in a different video.